So who are some of your favorite local acts?
Um, I generally am kind of, I guess I'd say I'm overly discriminating sometimes about new music in Austin because there's so many bands, there's so many new artists all the time, and um, you just can't absorb it all.
Hmm.
So I've gotten to where I'm pretty, I guess, kind of an elitist about it and don't really pay much attention until something really knocks me out. And so the bands that are on that list for me right now are Pink Nasty, who's fantastic female singer, songwriter, and indie rocker who you got to just look her up because it's not what you would think from the name. The name Pink Nasty is kind of based on the fact that her brother is Black Nasty, the kind of over the top poser gangster rapper. he's he's really funny. It's satire. But anyway, so Black Nasty and Pink Nasty are a lot of fun at a party. But Pink Nasty she's the one who like writes the songs that I think are timeless pop gems, and her voice is just so it gets sort of right to the heart of the matter in terms of kind of purity and soul and passion. She's a real passionate singer, and her songs are. I mean, she's influenced by everything from Pavement to Christina Aguilera. You know, she's pop at heart, but also real sort of defiant indie rock chick.
Yeah,
She's real cool.
I've seen her a few times. I think she's amazing, and it's hard to sort of categorize her that distinctly.
Yeah.
She has a lot of different influences. You're right.
Yeah, and I'm really fond of Mario Mattioli from the Weary Boys, who's gone solo in the past year or two, and he's got energy and heart. It's all heart. It's just a guy with a guitar and harmonica, and it's on the surface it's going to remind you of Neil Young and Bruce Springsteen and Bob Dylan and Tom Petty, but his influences go way before any of that. I mean, he knows all about Woody Guthrie and Mance Lipscomb and Lightning Hopkins and the whole thing. So he's in his 20s, but he just kind of has an old soul, and so it really comes through in this music, which is really very traditional. You know, it's influenced by gospel music and influenced by folk music, and there's the whole sort of troubadour tradition. He's another great Texas songwriter.
I love him too.
Mario, yeah, he's great live. The
Great live.
He's got a really great band, great guitar playing and rhythm section, and Casey on the tambourine, her harmonies and everything is just kind of like, wow, it's like a family band or something. They're just having fun. They play, they play the little clubs in town, and it's never like, unaccessible. It's always just kind of down home, good times, and not real. You don't feel like you're everybody there is all hip or anything. You kind of feel like every show is a little bit under the radar. It's kind of like that. Yeah.
So you, like most musicians, have side projects and other things that you work on. What have you got going on right now?
My latest record is called the Marfa Project, and it's a solo effort. It's my second one that I put out under my own name, because Super Ego had 4 or 5 CDs. So now I'm just putting them out under the name Paul Miner, and this was a project that I kind of conceived and put together mostly out in Marfa, Texas, where I have several friends who I collaborate with, and the owner of the studio, Gory. I was the first customer at the Marfa Recording Company. Gory he's kind of the sound man in demand in Marfa whenever there's any kind of concert at the ballroom or Good Crowley Theater. He's the guy that they call when they need sound. So I knew he had his studio. I knew I had a great drummer, David Beebe, was already out there. He and I are partners in a club venture called Padres in Marfa. Adam Bork is a visual video artist and extremely talented songwriter and guitar player and keyboardist, and he plays on the record as well. And then I finished it here with some of my local guys, some of the same guys that play with Mario, and some of my just friends who play various things like horns and steel guitar and some of that other stuff that you just kind of layer onto a record. But most of it was done in Marfa, and it's sort of it's songs about the feeling of kind of venturing out into West Texas and trying to capture a certain inspiration that is somewhat ineffable that I find out there, but it's definitely a feeling of letting go of all the clutter and the distraction of the city and just the hustle and bustle of Austin, and being out there in basically the middle of nowhere, but still finding these just rare and small but very powerful sources of inspiration. And that's what Marfa is. It's got incredible art and culture and restaurants and several little clubs and venues and things all in that area, and you're just kind of it's astounding and almost magical the way that there's all this creativity out of there, and it comes from some strange source, the Marfa Lights or the Chinati Mountains or the McDonald Observatory in Fort Davis or Big Bend are all examples of just this sort of strange energy that's there, that's just beautiful and radiates through the landscape. So my album, of course, has songs about trains and windmills and barbed wire and campfires and the landscape, and you just can't help it. And it's honest. It's not cliche because it's not something that I dreamed up or got from anywhere else. I saw that windmill. I was there when that at the campfire, and I felt the power of that that imagery. So it has an impact. It comes out in music, and that's why this album is called the Marfa Project.
Well, when you were talking about Mario and Pink Nasty before, you mentioned some of their influences. Who are your biggest influences?
Well, when I was growing up, I was really into the British invasion pop, and I'd say really my biggest songwriting influence would be Ray Davies from the Kinks. And that was a band that I probably called my favorite band first. Them and The Who, Pete Townsend. Then I got into Tom Petty real heavily, and you can hear a lot of that kind of twang and sort of pop thing in his sound, but of course he's a second or third generation songwriter influenced by Bob Dylan, who is arguably my biggest influence now. But I like to think that, like Mario, that I go further back to find a source as opposed to just kind of mining that. I mean, the thing about Bob Dylan is you could pick one album and pretty much make a career on it, but then there's so many different things going on in there. If you go deeper, you'll find where his roots are.
And when we started talking, you mentioned that you were in a band when you were a teenager, and that there's a pretty active teen scene, rock scene now. What advice do you have for those new bands that are coming up?
My advice for new bands is don't put the cart before the horse, and don't try to accomplish everything overnight. Give yourself time to experiment and develop. Don't assume that your very first band or your very first drummer or your very first song is going to be something that is going to, pay your bills for the rest of your career. Change is good. You have to evolve, and you have to be able to adapt.
Well, would you play something for us?
Of course.
Okay, well, we're going to take a moment and set up, and we'll be back with more from Paul Miner.